This is Knebworth House in Hertfordshire. It was owned by the Lytton family, who were originally a Derbyshire family before Robert Lytton bought the estate to be closer to London. Robert fought with Henry Tudor at Bosworth, and after, when Henry was king, Robert became under-treasurer to the household. Robert began building a new house around 1500. During the Civil War, Robert's grandson William fought on the side of Parliament, and his second wife was actually a first cousin to Oliver Cromwell. The estate then passes 3 times through marriage, first to the Strode family, then to the Robinson family, and then it was inherited by Richard Warburton Lytton. The name Lytton was added to each of the family's last names. Richard had one daughter, Elizabeth, who married General William Bulwell, and they had 3 sons. These were William, Henry and Edward. Unfortunately, 4 years after Edward was born, his father died, and another 3 years later, Elizabeth's father had died too. When her father died, Elizabeth got royal licence to add her father's surname to hers, becoming Elizabeth Bulwell Lytton. That same year, she moved into Knebworth and remodelled the house, removing 3 sides of the building and adding the Gothic towers and battlements. Elizabeth stayed at Knebworth until she died, living with her son Edward Bulwell Lytton, the Victorian author. She had a huge falling out of the church over the tax they claimed on all the estate produce, and she forbade her servants to attend going. She held services herself in the House of State drawing room, where she read from a large Bible, which you can now see today within her bedroom in the house, and she even planted trees all around the church, so she wouldn't even have to look at it. Elizabeth was even determined to keep the argument going after death, and had this mausoleum built in the park, where she, along with her descendants, are now laid to rest. Her son Edward inherits the Knebworth estate, and in his day, Edward was a far more popular author than Dickens, although today his work is somewhat neglected. Edward marries Rosina Doyle Wheeler, who was witty and beautiful. Her mother Anna was an advocate for women's rights. The couple had 2 children, Emily and Robert. The marriage, however, was not successful. Perhaps it was the stress Edward was under dealing with his literary career and a political one, which led him to neglect his family. Rosina wrote her bestseller, which was an attack on her husband, his friends, and his family. When Edward, as colonial secretary, who was giving a speech in Hertford, she interrupted by saying, "Men of hearts, if you have hearts of men, hear me. How can the people of England submit to have such a man at the head of the colonies, who ought to have been in the colonies as a transport long ago?" For this, Edward had her locked in a lunatic asylum. But due to public outcry, Rosina was released a few weeks later. Edward's granddaughter, Constance, joined the suffragette movement, and she was arrested and imprisoned 4 times, although the first 2 times she was released as soon as they knew who she was. She then disguised herself as a London seamstress and was sentenced to 2 weeks' hard labour, and there she went on hunger strike and had to be force-fed. Later the estates passed to the Cobold family, who own it today, and again they've included the name Lytton. And here on the house we can see some of the coat of arms from the families that have owned it. A various of dragons and different things on the walls there.